Picture this. Dawn explodes across the Burkina Faso sky, a blaze of golden light flooding a colossal factory where robotic arms roar and thousands of people are making history. This isn't Silicon Valley. This isn't Tokyo or Detroit. This is Ouagadougou, the beating heart of West Africa, where one man is doing the impossible, producing 30,000 self-driving cars every single day. Smart, rugged machines built to conquer Africa's toughest roads and propel an entire continent into the future. His name? Ibrahim Traoré, a visionary whose dream is so big it's forcing the world to take notice. You dare believe that a landlocked nation, once dismissed as a land of impossibilities, is now outpacing global auto giants? These cars don't need drivers, don't need charging stations, and are designed by African minds for African roads. If this sounds like science fiction, buckle up, because the story you're about to hear will blow your mind. We're taking you to the heart of a revolution, a tale of unbreakable grit, boundless creativity, and an Africa rising to declare, we're not just catching up, we're leading. Are you ready? Strap in, because this ride is packed with inspiration, surprises, and moments that'll make you proud of what humans can achieve. And hey, if you don't want to miss world-changing stories like this, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free, and it'll keep you in the loop for more epic journeys. Let's dive in and find out how Ibrahim Traoré pulled off this miracle. Our story begins in Ouagadougou, the vibrant capital of Burkina Faso, where Ibrahim Traoré grew up in a modest neighborhood, immersed in the rhythm of daily life. Street vendors hawking roasted plantains, motorbikes weaving through dusty roads, and the lively chatter of community. Born in 1988, Traoré was no stranger to hardship. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation with scarce resources, faced challenges like unreliable electricity, limited infrastructure, and an economy heavily reliant on agriculture. But where others saw obstacles, Traoré saw opportunities. As a kid, young Traoré would tinker with broken radios and old motorcycle parts, fascinated by how things worked. Why do we import everything? He'd ask his father, a mechanic who fixed secondhand cars from Europe. Why can't we build our own? Those questions planted a seed, one that would grow into a vision so bold it would reshape a nation's destiny. Fast forward to 2015, Traoré, now a young military officer with an engineering degree, was stationed in a remote region of Burkina Faso. There, he saw firsthand how the lack of transportation isolated communities, farmers couldn't get crops to market, kids couldn't get to school, and medical emergencies often ended in tragedy. The few imported cars that reached these areas were ill-suited for Burkina's rugged terrain, breaking down under the strain of potholed roads and scorching heat. Traoré knew there had to be a better way. Then came the spark in 2016 while attending a tech conference in Nairobi. Traoré saw a demonstration of a self-driving car prototype. The idea hit him like a bolt of lightning. What if Burkina Faso could build its own self-driving cars, designed for African realities, not luxury sedans for smooth highways, but tough, affordable vehicles that could navigate dirt tracks, dodge obstacles, and connect communities? And what if they could be produced on a scale never seen before? 30,000 cars a day to transform not just Burkina Faso, but all of Africa. Let that sink in for a second. A landlocked nation with no automotive history, aiming to outproduce global giants like Toyota or Tesla. Crazy? Maybe. But Traoré wasn't one to back down. He returned home with a fire in his gut and a plan in his head. This wasn't just about cars. It was about proving that Africa could innovate, lead, and dream big. Traoré knew he couldn't do it alone. He needed a team, resources, and a nation willing to believe in his vision. But Burkina Faso in the late 2010s was a tough place to start a revolution. Political instability, economic struggles, and skepticism about local innovation were ever present. Yet Traoré had a secret weapon: charisma, determination, and a knack for inspiring others. He started small, gathering a group of local engineers, coders, and mechanics in a borrowed warehouse. They called themselves Fasotech, a nod to their shared dream of building technology for Burkina Faso. The team worked nights and weekends, fueled by coffee and a belief that they could change the world. Their first goal? A prototype for a self-driving car that could handle Burkina's unique challenges. Here's what set their vision apart. Unlike Western self-driving cars, which rely on pristine roads, GPS, and constant internet, Fasotech's car had to be a beast. Tough enough for unpaved roads, smart enough to navigate without reliable signals, and cheap enough for everyday Africans. They designed a vehicle with higher ground clearance, reinforced suspensions, and dust-resistant sensors. Instead of pricey LiDAR systems, they used a combination of cameras and AI trained on African road conditions. Think dodging goats, weaving through market crowds, and handling sudden floods. But the real game changer was the power source. Burkina Faso's spotty electrical grid couldn't support widespread EV charging, and fuel was too expensive. Traoré's team developed a hybrid solar kinetic system. Solar panels embedded in the car's roof harnessed Burkina's abundant sunlight, while kinetic energy from braking and wheel motion recharged the battery. The result? A car that could run for days without plugging in or refueling, perfect for remote villages. By 2018, Fasotec unveiled its first prototype, the Fasostar, a boxy, rugged vehicle that looked more like a futuristic Land Rover than a sleek Tesla. It could drive itself through Ouagadougou's chaotic streets, avoid obstacles, and even respond to voice commands in local languages like Moor and Dioula. The prototype wasn't perfect. Early versions struggled with complex intersections, but it was proof that Burkina Faso could innovate. The Fasostar caught the attention of local media, and soon Traoré was a household name. But he wasn't satisfied. A single prototype wouldn't change lives. He wanted to produce 30,000 cars a day, enough to revolutionize transportation across Africa. To do that, he needed to scale up, big time. Scaling from a prototype to mass production is where most dreams die, but Traoré had a secret weapon, his ability to rally people around a cause. In 2019, he pitched his vision to Burkina Faso's government, local investors, and international partners. This isn't just about cars, he told them. It's about jobs, pride, and a future where Africa leads. His passion was infectious, and soon the pieces started falling into place. The government allocated land outside Ouagadougou for a massive factory complex, dubbed Fasotec City. International partners, including a Chinese robotics firm and a German AI company, brought expertise and investment. Local businesses from steel mills to textile workshops signed on to supply parts. By 2021, construction was underway, and Fasotec City became a symbol of hope, a place where Burkina Faso's youth could see their dreams take shape. Fasotec City wasn't just a factory, it was an ecosystem. The complex included assembly lines with cutting-edge robotics capable of producing 30,000 cars daily, R&D labs where engineers refined AI algorithms and tested new materials, training centers to teach young Burkinabe skills in coding, robotics, and mechanics, and renewable energy plants powered by solar and wind to keep the factory running during blackouts. The factory's design was a marvel of efficiency. Robots handled repetitive tasks like welding and painting, while human workers focused on quality control and customization. The AI system, nicknamed FasoMind, coordinated everything, optimizing production schedules, predicting maintenance needs, and even suggesting design tweaks based on real-world data. But Traoré didn't stop at technology. He knew that for Fasotec to succeed, it had to lift up communities. He prioritized hiring locally, training thousands of young people, many of whom had never touched a computer before. Small businesses, like a family-run upholstery shop in Bobo de Lasto, became key suppliers, growing from side hustles to thriving enterprises. The ripple effect was staggering. For every job in the factory, 3 more were created in the supply chain. By 2023, Fasotec City was fully operational, producing 30,000 Fasostars a day. That's over 10 million cars a year, enough to flood Burkina Faso's roads, export to neighboring countries, and even compete in Europe and Asia. The cars were affordable, starting at $5.00, a fraction of Western EVs, and packed with features tailored to Africa, voice-activated navigation, modular cargo spaces, and a community mode that let drivers share rides with neighbors. Let's pause and talk about what 30,000 self-driving cars a day really means. Imagine a farmer in a remote village who used to walk hours to sell his millet. Now he hops into a Fasostar, loads his crops, and lets the car drive him to market while he catches a nap. Picture a teacher in a rural school using a Fasostar to shuttle kids from distant villages, ensuring they never miss a lesson. Think of a doctor delivering vaccines to isolated clinics without worrying about fuel or breakdowns. The Fasostar didn't just make transportation easier, it transformed lives. In Burkina Faso, where only 10% of roads are paved, the car's rugged design and self-driving smarts opened up new possibilities. Villages once cut off from the world were now connected. Small businesses flourished as goods moved faster and cheaper. Families saved money that would have gone to fuel or repairs. The economic impact was massive. Faso Tech City employed 50,000 workers directly and supported 150 more in the supply chain. Local suppliers from tire makers to software startups saw their revenues soar. Burkina Faso's GDP grew by 5% in 2024, with the automotive sector leading the charge. Exports to countries like Ghana, Mali, and Nigeria created a regional boom, proving that African innovation could compete globally. But the real magic was the pride it sparked. Young Burkinabe saw Traoré as a hero, proof that they could dream big and win. Schools reported a surge in students studying STEM, inspired by Fasotech's success. Across Africa, leaders began replicating Traoré's model, from Kenya's solar-powered buses to Morocco's EV factories. This wasn't just an industry, it was a movement. And let's not forget the environmental impact. The FasoStar's solar kinetic system slashed reliance on fossil fuels, reducing Burkina Faso's carbon footprint. The factory's renewable energy plants set a new standard for sustainable manufacturing. In a world grappling with climate change, Burkina Faso was showing how to innovate without wrecking the planet. Now, let's get real. No revolution comes without bumps in the road. Producing 30,000 cars a day is a logistical beast, and Fasotech faced its share of challenges. Supply chain disruptions, like global chip shortages, occasionally slowed production. Burkina Faso's unreliable power grid, despite the factory's renewable plants, caused headaches, and bureaucratic red tape, from export tariffs to safety regulations, made cross-border trade a maze. Then there were the skeptics. Some called Traoré's vision too good to be true. Self-driving cars in Africa with no infrastructure? They scoffed. Others questioned the FasoStar's AI, pointing out that early models struggled with rare edge cases like navigating crowded livestock markets. Without peer-reviewed studies on the solar kinetic system, some dismissed it as a gimmick. Show us the data, they demanded. How much energy can it really generate? Traoré didn't shy away from the criticism. Every great idea starts with doubters, he'd say, flashing his trademark grin. He invited independent researchers to test the FasoStar, and while the results weren't perfect, kinetic energy output was lower than hoped in cloudy conditions, the car still outperformed traditional EVs in rural settings. Fasotech also partnered with universities to refine the AI, training it on millions of hours of African road footage. The biggest challenge, though, was cultural. In a country where driving is a source of pride, some Burkinabe were hesitant to trust a self-driving car. Traoré tackled this head-on, launching a campaign called Drive the Future, where locals could test the FasoStar for free. He even rode along, chatting with drivers and showing them how the car worked. Slowly, trust grew, and the FasoStar became a symbol of progress. By 2025, Fasotech wasn't just a Burkina Faso story, it was a global phenomenon. The FasoStar won awards at international auto shows from Geneva to Shanghai. European cities looking for affordable EVs began importing FasoStars for urban fleets. Even Silicon Valley took notice, with tech giants inviting Traoré to speak at conferences. Africa were leading. The world was waking up to Africa's potential. While China unveiled flying cars and the U.S. pushed autonomous trucks, Burkina Faso was proving that innovation doesn't need a Silicon Valley zip code. The FasoStar's rugged design and low cost inspired automakers in India and Brazil to rethink their own models. Traoré's story of a young man from a small nation outsmarting the odds became a rallying cry for dreamers everywhere. But Traoré never forgot his roots. He reinvested Fasotech's profits into Burkina Faso, building schools, hospitals, and tech hubs. He launched a scholarship program for young engineers, ensuring the next generation could carry the torch. "This is bigger than me," he said in a 2025 interview. "It's about giving every African kid a chance to change the world." So where does Fasotech go from here? Traoré's vision is far from finished. He's already working on FasoStar 2, with improved AI, longer range, and a sleeker design. There's talk of a Faso Flyer, a self-driving drone for delivering medical supplies to remote areas. And Traoré has his sights set on 50,000 cars a day by 2030, with factories in Ghana, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. He plans. The challenges aren't going away. Global competition is fierce, and Fasotech will need to keep innovating to stay ahead. Infrastructure in Africa. roads, power, internet must improve to support widespread self-driving cars, and Traoré will need to balance growth with sustainability, ensuring Faso Tech City doesn't strain Burkina Faso's resources. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that Ibrahim Traoré doesn't back down. His story is a reminder that the future isn't written in New York or Beijing. It's being shaped in Ouagadougou, Nairobi, and Lagos. Africa's automotive revolution is more than cars. It's a movement for empowerment, pride, and possibility. So next time you hear about self-driving cars, don't just think of Tesla or Waymo. Think of the fossil star, zipping through Burkina Faso's dusty roads, carrying dreams from one village to the next. And think of Ibrahim Traoré, a man who dared to dream big and proved that Africa can lead the world. If you've loved this journey, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to stay in the loop on stories that inspire. Share this with a friend who needs a dose of hope, and let us know in the comments, what's the boldest dream you've ever had? Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next story.